Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast. Got a pretty interesting show for you here today. Going to talk about, man, Scottie Pippen is crazy. He says some wild stuff, and he's back at it again. But before we get to that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please go ahead, click that subscribe, that like, that notification bell. Make sure you kept up to date on whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, go ahead, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in the Format Podcast. We should come right up. And if you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. We love the comments. It helps us better interact with you. So channel is growing. We really appreciate it. Let's keep it going. All right, let's get right to it. So there's a saying, and the saying is comparison is the thief of joy. What does that mean? When you compare, a lot of times, instead of being happy with what you have, it makes it harder for you to enjoy the life that you lead, the things that you have, where you're going, and what you're doing. Now, some people can look at it and say comparison drives you, but comparison can also make people crazy. And I think Scottie Pippen is case in point on that. Now, Scottie Pippen is the longtime Robin of Michael Jordan in those 6 Chicago Bulls championship teams. And he's a top 75 and a top 50 player all time. He's he is a top 10 small forward all time. He's one of the best all around players the game has ever seen. He's one of the best defensive players the game has ever seen. So Scottie Pippen carved out his own niche and his own place in NBA history. But here's the problem. Michael Jordan is widely regarded, as we all know, as the greatest player of all time. Now, some of you may disagree with that, and that's fine. That's why I use the term widely regarded. He's still widely regarded as the best player of all time, and that's even among current NBA players. But anyway, different story. So here's the thing, right? Scottie Pippen, I think last year, he dropped a book. And as part of dropping a book, he's been saying a lot of interesting things. And personally, I think he's been saying a lot of things that he knows are BS. And he's doing that specifically for the point of selling this book. I don't know how well the book sold. I didn't go check. I was just thrown off by a lot of the ridiculousness that he said, comparing himself to Michael Jordan. He's better than Michael Jordan, blah, blah, blah. Now, when it comes to Michael Jordan, as you know, there can, in 2024, almost never be a time where you mention Michael Jordan without the inevitable LeBron James comparison. We know LeBron James, all-time great player, et cetera, et cetera. But this isn't about Michael Jordan, LeBron James. But where LeBron James comes in is because his supporters will do anything they can to detract from Michael Jordan's legacy. And one of the biggest things that they love to do is say that Scottie Pippen made Michael Jordan. And they point to the fact that prior to Scottie Pippen's arrival, Michael Jordan had only won not one playoff series, I believe one playoff game. He'd never won a playoff series prior to the arrival of Scottie Pippen. But they don't look deeper and see that, Scottie Pippen in his first 3 years didn't do a whole lot of anything. Now, he consistently grew. He consistently became a better player. And a big part of that, he has earlier in his career, I guess before he went crazy, credited a great deal of that to Michael Jordan, and Michael Jordan, building his development. Kind of like a swordsmith, right? If you ever watch one of those Japanese movies, or even one of those movies about knights and stuff, and you see the swordsmith and the blacksmith or whatever, and he's banging the sword with the hammer over and over again, and then he dips it in the water, then he brings it back out and he bangs it some more, and then he puts it back on the heat and he folds it over time and time again and sharpens a blade until finally he's got this fine-tuned weapon that's cutting through the enemy, right? Okay, that's kind of what Michael Jordan had to do with Scottie Pippen. And if you're honest with yourself and you go back and look, you will see Scottie Pippen's contributions continue to grow over time with Michael Jordan until he became arguably the greatest Robin. That's the greatest number 2 player in the history of the NBA, and playing a pivotal role in helping Michael Jordan and those Bulls capture those 6 championships. Now, the fact is this: we can say all we want. Oh, Scottie Pippen made Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan didn't do anything without Scottie. But it's funny, those same people that love to say that don't ever point to the fact that Scottie Pippen had opportunities without Michael Jordan to win and couldn't get it done. There's 1994, and that's what we're going to talk about, when he was arguably the best all-around player in the NBA. Some people are going to say that. I'm going to my guy Dream. We saw what he did in 1994. Different story. But A lot of people are going to point to that 1994 season and what Scottie Pippen did, and we'll get to that. That's kind of the crux of his commentary. But what I like to point to, number one, he didn't get it done in 94. Number two, he had opportunities, I want to say, in 99. He went to Houston. At that point, he played with Olajuwon and he played with Charles Barkley. Now, both of those guys were past their prime, but they were still outstanding players. And if Scottie Pippen was that guy, he would have been the third guy to go ahead and push him over the top. After leaving Houston, he went to a young, bloated Portland Trailblazers team, and they couldn't get past the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe. So my point is, Scottie Pippen had opportunities to prove that without Michael Jordan, he could get the job done. He didn't. He failed at every turn. And it's not like he was on bad teams trying to make it happen. He was on very good teams with a lot of talent, could not get it done. But those same people, those same LeBron fans who want to say that Scottie Pippen carried Michael Jordan, they suddenly disappear and get quiet like church mice when it comes to, well, what did Scottie Pippen do without Michael Jordan? But let's go back to the 1994 season and Scottie Pippen's comments. This is crazy to me. And this is why I say comparison is the thief of joy. So in Scottie Pippen, I guess he's made recent comments, and these are the comments he said. Now, let me be clear. I'm going to say it again. In 1994, Scottie Pippen had an MVP-worthy season, and we'll kind of get to a little bit of the context behind that in a minute. But here were his comments, okay? I enjoyed my growth and development as a player, as well as the leadership that I had. It was the first time for me to be the clear-cut star. I didn't always have a choice to rise up when Michael was there, especially in my first 3 years. But by him stepping away a little bit, it gave me a little room to grow. And when he came back, it gave me an opportunity to stand beside him instead of standing below him. Okay. Scottie, again, but when this show started, I rolled off your bona fides, and I explained that everyone knows how great of a player you were. But let's stop with the BS. You're talking about standing beside Michael Jordan. You will never stand beside Michael Jordan. Yes, you're an all-time great player, but no one thinks that you're standing beside Michael Jordan. You'll always be below him simply because you weren't as good as he was. And that's just the fact, okay? And it's insane to me that you keep attempting to push this narrative that you were as good as he was and that you can legitimately stand next to him, because Scottie, you just can't. And that's not a shot at you, because nobody can, okay? Now, people are going to point to the fact that when Jordan stepped away in 94, Scottie Pippen carried the Bulls to Eastern Conference, finals, almost to the finals, and the Bulls only lost two more games than they did the previous year in winning the championship. And they're going to say, well, that shows you Scottie was more important than Michael. No, that's not what that shows you. Only an idiot is going to say that. So here's the deal. When Michael Jordan was getting busy early in his career, he had a very good coach. He didn't have a coach that was going to go on to be legendary, right? So by 1994, Phil Jackson was already a 3-time championship head coach. The triangle system was firmly in place with the Chicago Bulls. The entire roster was pretty much the same, except for the absence of Michael Jordan. Now, that's a huge absence. I'm not going to denote that absence, but to Scottie's point, it gave everyone else an opportunity to kind of step up and play a greater version of the role that they played when Michael was there. And that's cool. But again, you have an outstanding coach, you have a system in place, you have an outstanding all-around player at the top of his game, and you have players that understand the system completely. So this is what I like to point to, and I'm going to bring up LeBron here. When LeBron leaves the team is destroyed in most cases. The team is in tatters, and it takes years for that team to recover and get back to a level of decency. Why? Because he destroys the team's future. He destroys the team's present by trading away multiple players. We've seen that everywhere he's been. And so the team has to have time to recover from what he does to it roster-wise. The Bulls did not have that issue when Michael Jordan stepped away. The team was still perfectly in place. The coaching was in place. The system was in place. Everything was there for them to have continued success. And again, Scottie Pippen had an incredible season. So that year, Scottie Pippen had a career high in scoring, 22 points per game, rebounding, 8.7 rebounds per game, and averaged 2.9 steals per game. And he led the team in points, assists, and steals. So he was all first team NBA, all NBA defensive first team. So He actually ended up being third in the All-Star MVP voting behind Hakeem Olajuwon. I told you that I believe that's one of the greatest, if not the single greatest season in NBA history, his 94 season, and David Robinson, who placed second in 94 and ended up winning in 95. Okay, so again, this is not denigrating Scottie in any way, but let's take a look at this, right? So Scottie Pippen that year, he averaged 22, almost 9 rebounds, 2.9 steals, 5.9 assists. Okay, so let's compare that to Michael Jordan's final season, I want to say 88, 89, before Phil Jackson took over as head coach. Michael Jordan in that year averaged 32 and a half, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2.9 steals. Now, we see that Scottie was the slightly better rebounder, but 8.7 to 8. That's roughly the same. Okay, cool. Michael Jordan obviously averaged almost 11 points more per game. So we know that Michael Jordan was a far superior scorer. Get that. They both averaged 2.9 steals per game. And Michael Jordan averaged 8 assists. Now, I'm not going to harp on Michael Jordan averaging more assists per game than Scottie, because as I've said ad nauseum on this show, nobody averages high assist totals in the triangle offense. They just don't. Read and react offense, a lot of motion, a lot of get the ball to the open guy, make the extra pass, etc. So it's not one guy necessarily dictating, setting everything up, etc. For instance, an offense like the triangle wouldn't work for a guy like Magic Johnson, even though he was a basketball genius. It just wouldn't, because Magic Johnson, pure point guard, has to have the ball in his hands, be the decision maker, lead everything. Got it. John Stockton, same thing. Isaiah Thomas, same thing. So every system doesn't work for every player. Now, that said, let's go back and look at that. Michael Jordan averaging 32 a game while getting 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2.9 steals. So being the primary defender, leading the league in scoring, also hitting the glass, and being the main distributor. And at one point, 10 triple doubles in 11 games that season for Michael Jordan. Now, that's not, again, to take any shot at Scottie Pippen, but where do we see Scottie Pippen, even in his best season, standing up to what Michael Jordan did? That doesn't make any sense that he would say that. So now he's saying, it gave me an opportunity when Michael returned to stand beside him instead of stand below him. No, everybody knows that you're the greatest the greatest Robin who ever played the game. You're the greatest Robin. You're not Batman. You'll never be Batman. You're not that guy. And some people, that's incredible. I'm not sure why it's so hard for Scottie Pippen to understand this, to accept this, and why he's coming out here telling lies. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, Phil Jackson, the Hall of Fame coach, who was Scottie's coach at the time and ended up later coaching Shaq and Kobe to a three-peat, and then Kobe to 2 more championships for 11 total, he had great comments to make. He said, quote, "Everyone worked hard at it, and Scottie was an unbelievable leader that year, probably deserving of MVP in the league. That was a year in which he had shown everyone the quality level he could play at, and his team played very, very unselfishly," unquote. So, yes, Pippen, you had an incredible season. You played great. You showed everybody that you could carry a team in the perfect situation without Michael Jordan being there. But the fact is, without Michael Jordan, you have never been able to get over the top. You've never been able to win, and that was on teams that were loaded with talent. So can we please stop this nonsense of Scottie Pippen talking about Michael Jordan? You're better than Michael Jordan. You were Michael's equal. You stood beside Michael instead of below him. Accept your place in history, accept what you did, because very few players have done what you've done, and just move on. Stop the lying. Okay, what I want to know from you, what do you think about Scottie Pippen's comments? How ridiculous do they sound? You know what? I'm not even going to lead you. I believe they sound ridiculous. Do you agree with me? What are your thoughts on his comments? Leave your comments in the comment section. Can't wait to hear from you. Can't wait to get back to you. And I'm out. Peace.